First topic, movies. With the main news, and you folks have probably heard this at the moment, we haven't been able to talk about it, at least this particular chapter in the saga. Jonathan Majors is officially out as Kang. Apparently, I believe he was found guilty in court. We're not lawyers, not passing any kind of judgment on whether or not he is guilty, but that's what the court found. So, for the moment, that is public perception of events. Uh, so, this does put Marvel in the pickle that we talked about several months ago of do they recast Kang and kind of stick with their plan, or do they go a different route and just never mention Kang again?
Well, and some of the parodies that people have made that they should replace him with is just hilarious.
Well, I did think the Robert Downey Jr. from Tropic Thunder as Kirk Lazarus, I thought that was funny. Like, obviously, they're never going to do that, and it probably would be in poor taste to actually do that, but it was very funny.
Well, and the thing is, with all of the variants, and apologize, I don't want to lose audio. Hitting.
Hang on just a moment. He'll be right back, folks. Yeah, we have constant cat attack action going on here.
Well, I just want to make sure that he doesn't. Well, he's biting on the mic cables, and I don't want the audio to go crap because of that. Like, for the most part, I don't mind the kitten because, again, people probably see him and go, "Oh, he's cute." He is, but he's also a kitten and wants to tear up the mic stuff. But anyways, no, because another one I've seen was them replacing him with Will Smith.
I mean, that's an option. I personally would love to see him replace him with Terrence Howard just to.
Oh yeah, I saw that one too. People were like,
yeah, I mean,
or they could just get Brolin to play yet another MCU character or Marvel character.
There you go.
But the whole thing with the time variance and all of that. Seriously, kitten, what is with the mic cables that are just so interesting?
Yeah, the cat is the only thing it wants to attack is the microphone cables. So, well, while Jim's gone, I'm going to attempt to finish what I believe was his thought. There was that since you're dealing with a character that exists across several timelines, and we, I believe, have already seen different versions of the same character in different timelines. I have to think that through because I know in some of them they're all played by the same person, some of them they're not. But yeah, you could just say that, well, that version of Kang is gone because it's been defeated twice. And then just have the other actor be some other version because that's the whole deal is like it's a bunch of different versions of Kang. And then, of course, it also comes back to the other question that we've kind of dealt with a couple times that I know it's not a super popular talking point, but there's also well, if you're recasting him, are you going to make him look a little more comic accurate? And that of course opens a whole other set of problems because then you're going to have folks that are like, oh, you're whitewashing Kang. It's like, no, he was not right the first time as far as comic accuracy. And so there's no good way to do it for Disney because if they do that, there will be a vocal segment of the fan base who gets upset. I would argue that segment is tiny and is probably not going to pay for the movie to begin with. I've got the feeling that those are mostly folks that like to sail the high seas, if you know what I mean. But which is a problem that Marvel in general has in these and their comics. They're listening to people who don't buy their products and who will not buy their products. Like that's if you have your choices of fan bases and customers to go after, the customer who will never buy your product shouldn't even be on the list. And if it is on the list, it's in dead last.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that's who they're pursuing. Like they're literally pursuing a market that doesn't exist. And will never exist. These people don't even believe in capitalism. Like, it's stupid.
Well, okay. So I was listening to uh, Jason Momoa talking about Aquaman 2, and he was talking about when he originally got called for, casting for the, for DC, and he's like, well, I know a character I'm perfectly good, perfect for. He's like, yeah, it's a villain, but I'm okay with that. Lobo.
Oh, yeah, I could actually see that.
I mean, and I was just there going, damn, he would be like the perfect casting for Lobo, and then they're like, we're gonna cast you as Aquaman. He's like, what? But they kind of actually went into it. They're like, well, the Samoan side of things are like,
Yeah, I mean, in the movie, they set it up so it makes sense.
not saying it makes perfect sense, but I mean, it makes more sense than what they did for Namor.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know,
But yeah, and I'm sure if they do, if they don't try to correct towards the comic version, which I don't expect them to, I'm sure there are plenty of decent other actors that could step in.
Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard. But no, I think though it's terrible how it came about, but this might actually work in Marvel's favor because I've said before, Kang is a very boring character. Like he's not charismatic, he's not compelling. He's some bored asshole from the future who wants to come fight people because he's a bored asshole. Like that's it. That's the beginning and end of Kang's character.
Yeah, you went all in with the probably one of the Thanos, and you're like, oh well, awesome,
Yeah,
and then you go,
yeah. Thanos had character. If they explored it more, Ultron has character, and Loki clearly has character. There are villains that have character. There are villains that don't. And Kang's one of the ones that doesn't. Kang is more of a, oh, it's that guy from the future, like who could screw us all by going even farther back in time and just killing us as kids, but for some reason he doesn't. So how do we defeat him without pushing him to that? Like Kang's a different kind of threat. And it's usually more of a, oh, we have to stop Kang, and the story is about how do we stop Kang, not Kang as a character. Similar to how a lot of stories involving Apocalypse, as far as the X-Men, Apocalypse may as well be a plot device. Like he's never given. Well, I don't say never. More recently, he has been. He's usually not given a lot of character. It's all just okay. Survival of the fittest. Kill the flat scans. May the strongest mutants survive. That's the beginning and end of his character in several story arcs. Like he's just not compelling a lot of times. But more recently, he's been given a lot more backstory and depth, and I'm glad they have fleshed him out. And Kang, they could do that. They could take the movie's opportunity to do that, but the way they were going, I'm pretty sure they weren't going to. So this might be the blessing in disguise to be like, let's just replace him as a villain. Let's not replace the actor. Like, let's just put someone else in there. I'll go with the High Evolutionary. He was a compelling villain. He was interesting. He's also an asshole, but he was interesting. Did some unexpected things. Like whenever Quill confronted him about everything, he's like, "Oh, it was perfect society wouldn't do this." You're expecting him to say something about it. He's like, "Yeah, you're right." Quill's like, "Wait, what?" Like that's an interesting character. And he's chasing perfection, which you can't ever achieve, and just goes to ludicrous extremes. Plus, I thought the actor put a lot more emotion into things. So yeah, I would be all for Marvel just being like, let's just use the High Evolutionary next. He's a cosmic level threat. Let's just do that.
well, they could do that. They could do Annihilus. They could do Elite up to Galactus at some point.
Yeah, I mean you've got those options. I think they still intend on doing the Secret Wars, which means they're probably just going to switch to Doom. So we'll see how that
You
goes.
could have the Beyonder. You could have,
Yeah,
and even with Galactus, I mean, you could have Terrax as one of the first villains.
you got Terrax and Firelord could both show up. Um, yeah, you've got them. If they hadn't made a complete joke of the Kree, like we could have the Kree Skrull War show up. I mean, I suppose we still could.
You talk about boring character. Whatever the Kree were in the Marvels was just. I mean, nobody would have taken them seriously at all. I mean, yeah, they like wiped out entire planets because they were throwing a big temper tantrum about things instead of just using that amazing technology to just fix their planet.
Yeah, I still need someone to walk me through like how Carol Danvers destroying the Supreme Intelligence like destroyed their sun and like caused all the water on their planet to disappear and things like that. Like I'm going to need someone to actually walk me through that one to help me understand that.
Well, let's say that the Supreme Intelligence had some sort of system in place that kept their sun active. Okay, whatever. I think the first thing you do is you fix your planet with the technology you have, obviously, to do that. Then you can go after Carol Danvers and be like, because all it would take is the Annihilator to come in and just destroy everything you're trying to do. I mean, you're banking on that she's not going to be able to be there in time. And that almost proved to be, well, I mean, it did end up proving to be wrong, except for those poor planets that didn't.
Well, they just need to take a page from what the Skrulls did when they were fighting the Fantastic Four. The whole can't beat them, join them, and create the Super Skrull to go fight them. So, like, I don't know that the Kree have a version of that, but the problem that the Kree and the Skrulls both have is they're both evolutionary dead ends. Like, they're not going to change into anything else ever. And so, because of that, they know that eventually they're going to be destroyed because someone that can still adapt is eventually going to overcome them.
The Shi'ar Empire.
The Shi'ar is a maybe because the Shi'ar are powerful and militaristic. I think they're both afraid of humanity because of just the sheer number of superpowered individuals show that humanity's definitely still on a evolutionary track to something. Plus, they're terrified of like Rick Jones because he achieved like peak human abilities, which basically made him a god. And they're like, oh, that's bad because eventually they'll all be like that. And well, that's bad. So yeah, and that's the kind of things that we could have been going into in the movies, but they had to make the Kree and the Skrull basically jokes. And
well, hell, they made the whole MCU a joke at this point. Um, and again, I'm going to go back to the whole thing watching Godzilla minus one. That if you focus on the story first, you can tell a convincing narrative that has a message behind it. Because like the message in minus one, I thought was done very, very well. Like I said, the PTSD, um, the threat of nuclear,
the literal and figurative fallout
yes,
of nuclear warfare.
Yes, I thought it was done very well. I mean, hell, there were points that is like, oh yeah, this is a Godzilla movie I'm watching here. I mean, because Godzilla wasn't always in
Yeah,
it.
there's that huge stretch after he leaves the island and before the testing where it's just like this is what it was like in Japan after the war.
And again, like I said, it's not a perfect movie by any means, but it was. It goes to show that if you focus on that story first, you can have the um, message. You can have the my God, cat. Seriously. Oh, you're playing with your mouse on the cord.
Have more cat attacks here.
I'm just waiting for the audio to be gone. The mic's still on there, but I have no idea why right under the camera is where he wants to be. Are you kidding me? Well, while you talk and I stand in front of the camera, I'm going to put something directly underneath this.
All right. So I believe what Jim was trying to say was that, and we've cited numerous examples, typically Star Trek, but now we have the Godzilla example as well, where you can have a message, and it can even be, if you want, it can even be a progressive message if you prefer that. But you have to have a real story. You have to have the humanity, the human drama, to bury it under so that people are interested in the product at face value. And then some people will enjoy it for the deeper meaning. But for it to be successful and get out there, it has to have that face value. Again, like Star Trek. Now, we watch Star Trek, and there's some episodes that are super blatant, like the one with the two guys that have one half their face is white, one half is black, and the other one the colors are reversed. It's a very blatant, like, hey, racism is stupid and bad. But you see its logical end conclusion where two peoples that are clearly derived from the same stock race have just wiped each other out, because of racist stupidity. And it takes that, like, just sometimes that hammer to the face, but it's buried under the metaphor, and it's an alien race and everything else. So you can still be blatant, but but you have to have that narrative distance, which is why sci-fi is very good for that, because they foist all these problems onto aliens, or it's aliens asking about particular human behaviors, and someone in the future, in the sci-fi universe, whatever it is that we're talking about, has to kind of explain, well, yeah, sometimes humanity, sometimes humans are shitbags, because, well, presumably if you're watching this, you live in the real world, so that statement is quite true. Uh, and yet we're getting these products from people that, like, at some point in their development as creators, all they heard was, oh, you can promote the message, and they never heard that whole, like, but you have to be a good writer to, like, make it so that people actually want to see it, because people do not like being preached to.
Well, and that's the thing, is that
unless you're in church, there you literally signed up for that.
And
I don't mean that as any kind of slam against any religious people.
The thing is that to tell a good message, you shouldn't have to just spell it out. It should not be, you can do better.
That should have been the message they should have taken. They can do better.
It should be inferred. It should be something that people think about and be like, after watching that, I think maybe nuclear war isn't the best thing. When you actually see how, an atomic bomb inside a city would react, and the devastation.
Oh, it reacts all right.
It just happened to be also caused by a, 50 meter. I'm assuming they went back with a 50-meter tall Godzilla in that one. But yeah, I mean, just the carnage and all of that, the not knowing what happened to your loved ones, and like, they didn't have to say any of that. Like, there was not at one point where they're like, nuclear war is bad. They're just like, they come back and they go, well, we lost, Yeah,
that was a clear-cut example of this element to writing that a lot of writers don't get, and that is show, don't tell. Don't tell us a character's awesome, show us they're awesome. Don't tell us nuclear war is bad, show us that it's bad. Thank you for watching. This has been a Geek Cabal video, Echoes of a Whisper. This has been a clip from one of our podcasts. The link to the actual podcast this is from is in the description of the video if you want to see the entire thing, which we obviously encourage you to do. But otherwise, if you enjoyed what you saw, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Subscriptions and all the rest is definitely appreciated. Comments, as always. But just in general, thank you for watching. Hope you liked it. And check out the other videos we have here on the channel. See you later.